Shocking. Eala said just 7 words, and suddenly the entire conversation around her US Open run felt different. Not because she made a huge prediction. Not because she promised a deep run. And definitely not because she declared herself the next champion. In fact, it was the exact opposite. When the 21-year-old Filipina star was asked how far she expected to go, she gave an answer that was simple, honest, and incredibly revealing. I don't have a specific round that I say I need to reach. 7 words. That's it. But behind those 7 words is a mindset that may explain how Eala went from a teenager grinding through qualifying and ITF tournaments to the world number 18 player and the highest-ranked Southeast Asian woman in tennis history. And with the US Open now in front of her, that mindset could be more important than ever. Think about what Eala is carrying into New York. She's only 21 years old, but she's already made history for the Philippines. She won her first WTA Tour singles title in Washington. She reached the 4th round at Wimbledon, where she defeated defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court. She became the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam main draw match in the Open era. And now, instead of putting a specific round on her US Open target list, she's choosing to take everything one match at a time. That's what made her answer so striking. In professional tennis, players are constantly asked about expectations. Can you win the tournament? Can you reach the quarterfinals? Are you ready for a Grand Slam semifinal? Most players understand that those questions come with the territory. But Eala refused to get trapped by them. She didn't give reporters a flashy prediction. She didn't create a headline by promising a certain result. She simply explained how she approaches competition, match by match, round by round. And this isn't a new philosophy for her. Just weeks earlier, during her homecoming event in Manila hosted by Globe and Ayala Malls at the Glorieta Activity Center, Eala explained the same approach. She said she wanted to get as far as possible. Of course, she wants to win. Every competitor does. But instead of looking too far ahead, she focuses on the match directly in front of her. That philosophy becomes even more impressive when you remember where she was just 1 year earlier. 12 months ago, Eala arrived at the US Open ranked number 75 in the world. She was still trying to establish herself inside the top 100. Now she comes back as a legitimate top 20 contender, ranked number 18, with another year of Grand Slam experience behind her. Since that previous US Open, she has played 3 more Grand Slam main draws. She has faced top 10 opponents. She has competed in high-pressure matches against some of the biggest names in women's tennis. And she has experienced the kind of moments that can completely change a young athlete's perspective. Eala herself explained that evolution at the Cincinnati Open. She said she knows she wouldn't be having these experiences without all the work she had put in beforehand. And she also understands that those experiences won't continue unless she keeps doing that work. For her, success isn't something that magically appears once you reach a certain ranking. It has to be maintained through preparation, discipline, and consistency. That may sound simple, but it's incredibly difficult in professional sports. Because once a player breaks through, everything changes. The attention gets bigger. The expectations get louder. Every victory creates a new expectation, and every loss gets analyzed from every possible angle. For Eala, that pressure became even greater after her Washington title and Wimbledon breakthrough. But she has openly acknowledged that pressure. After her Washington title-winning run, where she defeated Leylah Fernandez in the quarterfinals, coming back from 5-1 down in the second set before winning 6-2, 7-6, Eala explained that she is a highly competitive athlete and naturally feels pressure. But she also said the biggest obligation comes from herself. She described herself as very self-demanding and very ambitious. And that distinction matters. Eala isn't simply trying to satisfy the expectations of fans, media members, or an entire country. She has her own standards. She welcomes everyone who wants to support her and join her journey, but she understands that this is her journey first. That is a powerful way to look at pressure. Instead of asking, "What does everyone expect me to do?" she asks, "What do I expect from myself?" And that mentality may be one of the biggest reasons she has been able to handle everything happening around her at such a young age. Eala has also talked about the importance of staying grounded. At Nike's Play Mind Games with Eala event, she explained that she tries not to take herself too seriously. She knows people call her the pride of the Philippines, but she doesn't want to spend too much time thinking about that label because she believes it could get into her head. That doesn't mean she lacks confidence. Quite the opposite. Eala has been very clear about how badly she wants to achieve her dreams. She has said that nobody in the Philippines or anywhere in the world wants her to achieve those dreams more than she does. She is the person who wants it the most. That's where her internal motivation comes from. And perhaps the biggest lesson she has learned isn't about winning. It's about separating her identity from the scoreboard. Eala has admitted that one thing she had to unlearn was attaching her self-worth to results. She has been playing tennis since she was 4 years old. At 21, tennis has been a massive part of her life for almost as long as she can remember. So when results become disappointing, it can be easy for an athlete to feel as if the disappointment says something about them personally. Eala has worked to break that connection. She has also talked about another challenge she faced growing up: comparison. Imagine being a teenage girl, around 16 years old, already comparing yourself with other teenagers and then placing yourself inside an intensely demanding professional sports environment where rankings, results, and performance are constantly visible. That can mess with your head. But Eala says she has worked through that process and developed a stronger sense of self-esteem and self-confidence. She has reached a point where she can say she loves herself, isn't comparing herself with anyone else, and hopes every young girl and every woman can eventually experience that same feeling. And that confidence carries onto the tennis court. Eala has described her approach to the mental side of matches as something she can actively control. When it comes to mind games, she believes a player has to feel like the match depends on her. Because once you allow the opponent to dictate your thoughts, your emotions, and your mentality, you've already given away part of the battle. Her philosophy is straightforward: you cannot control what your opponent is thinking. You cannot control their mindset. You cannot control how they respond. But you can control the mindset you bring onto the court. And if you can walk onto the court feeling good about your own mentality, then regardless of what happens, you can walk off without regrets. That's a remarkable level of perspective for a 21-year-old. And she has even developed a practical way to manage those moments when her mind starts getting crowded. Before matches, Eala writes down her game plan and the most important things she wants to remember in a notebook. Then, when the match becomes chaotic and there are too many thoughts running through her head, she goes back to those notes. Sometimes she narrows everything down to just 1 or 2 things she needs to execute. That's it. Not the entire match. Not the entire tournament. Not the ranking. Not the expectations of millions of fans. Just the next thing she can control. And suddenly, those 7 words make much more sense. I don't have a specific round that I say I need to reach. That isn't a lack of ambition. It's the opposite. It's an understanding that you can't control the final destination if you lose focus on the road in front of you. The tennis world has noticed this mentality, too. Former world number 4 and US Open finalist Greg Rosetsky has praised Eala's mentality, describing it as second to none and emphasizing the importance of belief, swagger, intensity, and what happens inside a player's head. He has also praised how Eala appears to check every box as a player and described her as someone who must be a dream to work with. Legendary coach Rick Matchy, who coached Serena and Venus Williams, has also taken notice. He has referred to Eala as the Philippine machine, praising the cleanliness of her ball striking and her ability to handle different styles of opponents. His message was essentially that the US Open would provide another major test of whether Eala is ready to knock on the door of Grand Slam success. An ESPN analyst and 3-time Grand Slam singles finalist Mary Jo Fernandez has also highlighted the incredible level of following surrounding Eala. That following is no accident. For millions of Filipinos, Eala represents something much bigger than a tennis ranking. She is competing with the weight of a nation behind her, and the comparisons to major Filipino sporting icons, including legends such as Manny Pacquiao, only add to the spotlight. But Eala seems determined not to let that spotlight control her. Instead, she keeps returning to the same foundation: preparation, discipline, self-awareness, and process. And maybe that is why her 7-word answer felt so powerful. It wasn't a carefully crafted soundbite designed to create hype. It was a reflection of how she actually thinks. A year ago, she was trying to establish herself inside the top 100. Now she is number 18 in the world. A year ago, she was still fighting to prove she belonged on the biggest stages. Now she has already beaten an Olympic champion and a defending Grand Slam champion on center court and has established herself as one of the most exciting young players in the sport. Yet she still refuses to get ahead of herself. She knows how quickly tennis can change. One week can bring a breakthrough. The next can bring a tough loss. Rankings can rise and fall. Opponents change. Draws change. Conditions change. The one thing she can control is how she prepares and how she competes. So when Eala says she doesn't have a specific round she needs to reach, she isn't lowering the bar. She's removing the distraction. She wants to go as far as possible. She wants to win. She is ambitious. She is competitive. But she also understands that the only way to reach the biggest goals is to focus on the smallest task directly in front of her. One match. One round. 1 point. One decision at a time. And maybe that is the real story behind the 7 words that seem to leave the US Open conversation stunned. They weren't just about one tournament. They represented years of work. Years of discipline. Years of learning how to handle pressure. Years of learning that self-worth cannot depend on a result. Years of learning to stop comparing herself to others and start trusting her own path. At just 21, Eala has already achieved what many players spend an entire career chasing. But she doesn't sound satisfied, and she certainly doesn't sound finished. She sounds focused. And that might be the most dangerous version of Eala yet. Because when a player has the ambition to win but the discipline to forget about the trophy until the moment is right, that player can become very difficult to stop. The US Open will provide the next test. There will be pressure. There will be expectations. There will be tough opponents. There will be moments when everything seems to be moving too fast. But Eala already knows what she plans to do. She'll take it match by match. Round by round. And if she continues doing the work that brought her this far, the question may no longer be whether Eala belongs on the biggest stage. The question may be just how far she can take this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Eala's mindset and the meaning behind those 7 powerful words, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more tennis stories, analysis, and breaking developments. And let me know in the comments, do you think Eala's process-first mentality is the secret behind her rise to number 18 in the world? And how far do you think she can go at the US Open?